Well, here we go again, guitar players. Good to have you with me. I'm going to talk a little bit about scales and a little bit about chords. There's so much to talk about either one of those subjects. We'll never cover it all, but I just want to kind of give you another aspect to it. We talked about the natural scale. Now, that is a scale-wise progression because it's in alphabetical order. If you wanted an actual major scale, you would say, okay, well, what key do you want to be in? Well, let's say you want to be in the key of C. Now, I'm picking C because I happen to know that there are no sharps and no flats in that key. Again, I've got this kind of very quick review of a quick little snippet that we did in a previous lesson. A sharp raises a note 1/2 step or 1 fret's worth. A flat lowers it 1 fret's worth, which is also equivalent to what they call a 1/2 step. Meaning that if you go 2 frets in between a note, like G, A, on the 3rd string, open to 2, you've left a gap of one fret. So it's a 2 fret gap. In between, you either have a G sharp on that 1st fret or an A flat. They meet in the middle. Okay? When you have that 2 fret gap, you create a sharp or a flat in between. Within a scale, you need to maintain alphabetical order. Well, in the key of C, it's very easy because there's no sharps and there's no flats. So we start on a C. Well, the easiest C to start on is the lowest C, the bass C, on the 5th string, right? So we go C, immediately we have to go to the 4th string, D, E, F, to the G, to the A, to the B on the next string, and back to the C. Now that is part of that scale, but it is... I missed a note. Okay, that's a C scale, and it sounds like do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, in case you ever did that in grade school. That's what they were talking about, is that stretch of notes. If you wanted to do it in any other key, you suddenly need to know a little bit about sharps and flats. But to make it sound like this, I'm going to give you a formula. 2.5, 3.5. What do I mean by that? From any given note, you skip a whole step, and then a half. That's the 2.5. Then you skip a whole step, another whole step, another whole step, and a half step, and that's the 3.5. Adjusting for whatever string you need to be on. For instance, if you wanted to be in the key of G, all right, there's the G, 3rd string. A, that's a whole step. Now, the formula says to move up a whole step. Well, if you moved up 2 frets, you'd be on the tuning fret. You don't need to be there. You can go to the next open string. Okay, that has the same effect as the C. It sounds similar. It's not the same, of course not, it's in a different key. But G, A, B, now there's the 2 whole steps, now we need a half step, and that's 1 fret. So there's the C. Okay, now we need whole, 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 half. There's the D. The next note is going to be E, well that is 2 frets up, and there's the tuning fret, so we defer to the open string. Now we need another whole step from here. Now, we're in a fret that we didn't use in the natural scale. We're on the 2nd fret. So what do we call this? Is it an F sharp or is it a G flat? Well, here's where knowing the difference between scales and chords comes in handy. Scales are alphabetical. So if you go G, A, B, C, D, E, the next note is going to be F something, not G something. Okay? And besides, you're in the key of G, so G can't be flat because it's G. Okay? G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp. And then the G, and there's the half step. So it's whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. If you were going to go to the key of E, let's say, all right? You start on an E. I'm picking the one on the 4th string, 2nd fret. I can go up a whole step, and I've just skipped over the F, but because it's alphabetical, it's still F, but now it's F sharp. Now, I've got to go up another whole step, and that is going to be to the tuning fret +1, which would make it a G sharp. But I have a G sharp down here coming up from the open string instead of the tuning fret. So here's the G, G sharp, G, G sharp. So the F sharp to G sharp is the whole step. So we now have, and there's that do, re, mi thing. Okay? Now we need a half step. There's an A. A whole step takes us to the tuning fret, which carries us over to the open string. Another whole step takes us to C sharp, not D flat, because it's got to be in alphabetical order. So the B takes you to C sharp. Another whole step skips over the D, but it's got to be D something, so it's D sharp, and there's the E. Whole step, half, whole step, half, 2 1/2, 3 1/2. Works every time on any note that you start on anywhere on the guitar. You just simply have to adjust around where you flip-flop on the tuning frets and keep track of where you are. And that's why you want to know that scale so well, so that you can say, oh, well, I know that's an F, so this must be an F sharp if I need it. This F sharp is an interesting note. It shows up in your D chord. It also shows up in your B7. It's played with a different finger, but it's the same fret on the same string. Same note, F sharp. Not F, but F sharp. Okay, that sort of makes sense? Now that's scales, okay? And that's only major scales. We're not getting into minor scales. We're not dealing with the modes. That's a whole different state of affairs. But major scales, for instance, if you happen to know Cat Stevens' song Wild World, what I just did there was, ooh, baby, baby, it's a wild world. Now he gets to that F chord and plays the C scale. C, B, A, G, F, E, D, C, G chord. Okay? And actually what he does, he does a mute. That whole song is just full of muted strums, and we talked about that in a previous lesson. So you might want to go back and review that in case you missed it. Anyway, so we've got this alphabetical thing on scales. Now, chords are built on a series of notes that are you ready for this? Non-alphabetical. They are sequential. They are built on every other note. So for instance, if you had a C chord, you end up with a 1, a 3, and a 5. That's called a triad. Okay, it's referred to as a 1, 3, and a 5, the 1 being the name of the chord. All right, so if you're in C, you're going to say, oh, C, D, E, there's your third, because it's 1, 2, 3, C, D, E. You skip the F and you go to the G. So your chord is actually C, E, G. Every other note. Fine and dandy. On the guitar, it doesn't matter where that C, E, and G are located, as long as there's at least one of them in the chord. You can have one C, one E, and one G, and it is a full legitimate. Those are all C chords. They have all the elements, the 1, the 3, and the 5. But you can have other chords. This C chord that we play, just, like a normal C chord, right? Has a bass C. The next string has an E. The next string has a G open. The next string has the C with the first finger. And the next note is an open E. In that chord, I have 2 E's, 2 C's, and 1 G. But if I move to the G chord, I have a G, B, D, G, B, and G. within that chord I have 3 G's, 2 B's, and only 1 D. But they're all represented. They're all there. It doesn't matter how many of them are there. It doesn't matter where they are. It's still a G chord. That allows you to start working the upper neck to say, oh, well, okay, that means this must be a G chord in case you need it. Or this is a G chord. Or even this is a G chord because there's the D, there's the B, and there's the G. Okay? That's why you want to know how to find notes up on the neck so that you can now start to build chords. Okay? And every basic chord, major, minor, augmented, and diminished, those are the only 4 chord types there are, but we're dealing mostly with major and minor, have 3 notes in them, 3 different letter names, and they start with the 1, the tonic, the bass, whatever you want to call that, however you want to refer to it. The root, sometimes it's called. But if you just call it the 1, it's the chord you're on. So in an A flat chord, A flat is the 1 because, well, a note can be flatted. And so that becomes your 1. If it was an A minor chord, your chord is still 1. In an A chord, you would have A, B, C something or other, and then you skip the D and go to the E. A, C, and E. All right. In an A minor chord, the C is a C natural. In an A major chord, the C is sharped. It has to be a C sharp and not a D flat because the C sharp is the 3rd A, B, C something, not A, B, D something. That's not alphabetical. You see, the chords are dependent on those notes. And it still has to be alphabetical, even if you're counting the notes you're not playing. Is that confusing? That's confusing. Anyway, roll this back and review what I said already and see if you can make any sense out of it. But what you're doing here is starting to see that chords and notes are they're interrelated. They're all relational. Once you know what the note is of the chord you're on or the note of the scale you're on, you can build that 2.5, 3.5 major scale. You can find the 1, 3, and the 5 all over the neck. Experiment with it. Okay, experiment. Look all over the neck. If you're looking for a G, find the G note and then find a B and a D around it and you'll have a G chord. If you're looking for a C chord, find the C first. Then find the G and the E. Okay? C, skip the D, go to the E, skip the F, go to the G. There's your triad. Those are the notes you need. Doesn't matter which one's higher or lower. It matters that they're all there. And trust me, you're going to find them and they will be close by. All right? That's why this C chord is this little bunch of notes and this C chord is that, this C chord, yeah. They're all very tight bunches of notes. All right? So just keep experimenting with it. Keep working on it. If you have any questions, let me know. If you have any suggestions for other lessons, let me know. I will respond to you. Become a friend on Facebook. And so I'm just going to leave you saying what I always say. Keep at it, keep playing, and have fun with it. Bye-bye.